Hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening, YouTube? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels, and I think we're going to wind up titling today's video, "This is Why They Don't Want Elon Musk to Own Twitter." In a recent video, I talked about an article from The Intercept that came out, and this article talked about how for the past couple years, the Department of Homeland Security, the DHS, as well as like a sub-organization of the DHS called CISIS, I believe it's CICIS or CISIS, as well as the FBI, were having meetings with social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, and others to discuss how to suppress certain news stories they didn't want getting pushed and didn't want getting spread around, and also how to push other news stories or other narratives that they wanted spread, whether it be about the Mexican beer cough or other issues. I was on Yala Poppy's podcast, Stuart Odin, his podcast a couple weeks back, and one of the things that we discussed on his podcast was how important social media is for allowing everyday people to get messages out and allowing the truth to circulate. Think about it. How can I, I'm in Chicago, how can I know what's going on across the world in Australia? Let alone across the country in California. There's a couple ways that I can know what's going on. Number one, I could go there and see it with my own eyes. The other way I could potentially know what's going on in the world around me is maybe I have an aunt or uncle who lives in another country or another state or another city, and I trust them and they can tell me what's going on. But outside of that, how am I supposed to know what's going on anywhere else, right? Like I can listen to the media. We know that upwards of 80% of people in the U.S. don't trust the media, nor do people have a reason to trust the media, because we know that the media pushes certain narratives, the media lies to us. Within the past year, the media was having meetings with Joe Biden in the White House to discuss how to show him in a better light. I've talked about this before. The media doesn't necessarily have to be combative with the president or the White House or government or corporations. They are supposed to act like a watchdog, so they really shouldn't be partnering with companies or government to show them in a better light, right? It's not really the job of the media. So we know that we can't trust the media. So one way that kind of the truth can get out, or that we can hear messages from everyday people like you and I, is through social media. However, when social media censors and suppresses information, that shuts that down. So really, we're left with no way to really honestly and truthfully know what's going on in the world besides listening to the media or approved messages that come through social media. I don't want to give Elon Musk too much credit. I think we still have to kind of wait and see how he runs Twitter and how free of a platform it actually is. But Elon Musk seems to want facts to get out, seems to want the truth to get out, and doesn't seem too concerned with pushing certain narratives or suppressing certain messages. And I think that's why a lot of people are so scared of Elon Musk owning Twitter, is because he's not going to push certain narratives and he's not going to suppress certain information. For kind of the foundation of this article, the foundation of this video, we're going to be looking at an article titled "The White House Deletes Absurd Tweet After CNN and Twitter Slap Back with Fact Checks." Now, one thing that I really hope to see, if I had to pick a side, I would say I probably lean conservative. I'd probably consider myself more of a libertarian. But I really don't like I really don't like any political party. I don't like the Republicans and I don't like the Democrats. And my big fear here is that we're going to see a red wave where everybody votes the Republicans in, and then Mitch McConnell and a bunch of these other fuckheads wind up continuing to do the same nonsense, spending too much money, and basically kind of get everybody pissed off at that side. So the next time it flips back to the Democrats, it's just kind of back and forth. Both parties are kind of more of the same. But one thing that I do hope that Elon Musk does is kind of keep things very neutral and call both sides out on their nonsense. Pretty much since Twitter came on the scene, it's been a platform that has favored the left, that has pushed left-wing messages. And I hope that Elon Musk doesn't go to the other side and start pushing right-wing messages. I would like Elon Musk to continue calling out everybody on all sides. And honestly, I think he will do that. Elon Musk traditionally has been kind of a liberal guy, more of a traditional liberal, not like today's liberals or progressives. But Elon Musk is not a Republican, even though a lot of people want to label him a Republican because he believes in free speech and didn't go along with the beer cough narrative. So Twitter has begun fact-checking things. Again, they recently fact-checked Joe Biden. And this was so bad that even CNN had to fact-check Biden. What they fact-checked him about, there's been a couple things. So recently, when talking about student loan forgiveness, Biden said that he was able to squeeze it through by just a couple votes. Biden wasn't able, student loan forgiveness was never voted on. It's something that Biden passed with an executive order. And I think that's one of the big problems in the country right now is we don't have a functional government where Congress and the Senate actually vote on things and pass things. There are no checks and balances. Congressmen and senators don't represent the will of the people that they actually represent. They're never held to account because they never actually have to go on record and vote for anything. And I'm not picking on Biden, right? Bush was the same way. Obama was the same way. Trump was the same thing. Because we have a non-functioning government, everything winds up happening by executive order. I'm not sure if Biden was confused and just didn't know that student loan forgiveness wasn't voted on, or if he wants to give the appearance that it wasn't just an executive order and it was actually something that was voted on. But recently he did say it just squeaked through by a couple votes. That was untrue. Recently, Joe Biden also said that his son, Beau, died in Iraq, acting as if he was like a war hero. He did serve the country, but I believe he died of, brain cancer, right? So another factually untrue thing. We know, was that 2 4th of Julys ago, Biden talked about how, due to the moves of the White House, you're going to save 16 cents on your 4th of July celebration. Those must have been some funny numbers because at the time the cost of beef was up 30 to 40%. The cost of meats were up 30 to 40%. Not sure how they came up with this 16-cent savings, nor am I sure why anybody would brag about 16-cent savings. The story that they were recently fact-checked about, they said, seniors are getting the biggest increase in Social Security in 10 years through President Biden's leadership. So Social Security is getting an 8.7% hike, which, sounds good. It's the biggest one ever. I'm sure seniors will appreciate having more money, but it's not really a hike when the cost of living has gone up more than that. I believe the inflation rate out of the UK or Europe recently was almost 11%. Even the U.S. government, their stated inflation rate is 9.1%, 9.3%. So the senior citizens' cost of living increase through Social Security isn't even keeping up with the government's claim of what inflation is. Anybody who shopped at the grocery store, bought a house, bought a used car, had to get any services done, had to buy any building supplies, has bought any groceries, any clothes, anything else, realizes that the true inflation rate, it's normally probably about 3 times what the government says. So if the government says 9%, it's probably more like 9, 18, 27%. With a lot of items, it's 30 to 40% increase. So it's a little bit disingenuous to say through my great leadership, seniors are getting the biggest cost of living increase because seniors are actually losing money. Even with a whopping 8.7% increase, it's still not keeping up with their cost of living. And I think this is why a lot of people don't want Elon Musk to own Twitter, because he's not going to push the official narrative, whether it's coming from the Republicans or the Democrats. I think Elon Musk is going to push whatever the truth is, and he's going to call anybody out who tries to spin the truth. Now, I saw AOC recently sent out a tweet and said something like, you're all for free speech. Free speech shouldn't cost $8. A lot of people seem to be pushing this narrative that it's going to cost money to use Twitter. That's completely untrue. In my video the other day about the most recent video I put out about the blue checkbox costing you $20. Turns out it's only $8, not $20. I had made the video before solid information came out about the cost, but somebody in my comments said, Elon's this rich billionaire. Why would he buy Twitter and then charge people to use it? He's not charging people to use Twitter. Somebody else said something to Elon Musk. I think it might have been a newspaper, had tweeted out, democracy dies in the shadows. And I thought Elon Musk had a pretty witty reply. He said, then why are all your articles pay-gated? If democracy dies in the shadows and information should be free and readily available, how come all these newspaper and media sites have pay gates on their stuff? And I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but let's talk a little bit about this Paul Pelosi story, because this is kind of a big story on Twitter right now. The facts aren't really out. None of us really know what the truth is. There are some weird things about the entire story. The police dispatch recordings are available. You can listen to them online, and the police refer to this guy who supposedly broke into Pelosi's house as being a friend of his. It's kind of weird that the right is trying to say this guy's a left-wing fanatic. The left is trying to say that this guy's a right-wing fanatic. He lived in a house that had BLM flags and gay pride flags and, a lot of like kind of very, very left-wing things on the house. He was reportedly a hemp jewelry maker. I mean, everything about him doesn't seem like somebody who's like a radical right-wing nationalist or something like that. But we'll have to wait for the facts to actually come out about this. I saw it when I was at the gym the other day. I can't obviously hear the audio, but I'm seeing a story about the Paul Pelosi thing, and then they're playing January 6th imagery and videos. And, the left's message this election seems to be, if you don't vote for Democrats, it could be the end of democracy. And, I don't know. I don't get how, some rich old hag who's an insider trading, her husband gets beaten in the head with a hammer by a drug addict, and, that means that I'm supposed to vote for Nancy Pelosi. Don't really get the connection there. Let's get into this article. White House deletes absurd tweet after CNN and Twitter slap it with fact checks. And here's another thing about fact checks. Remember, Facebook was fact checking stuff quite a bit throughout the Mexican beer cough situation. Only later did they admit that these fact checks were opinions. They weren't actually facts. Another interesting thing about Snopes and a lot of these fact check websites, they'll oftentimes take things very, very literally. So I'm trying to think of an example here. If let's just say that it turned out that this guy who attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband was, let's say it was reported that the guy who attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband was his gay lover. Then let's say the truth comes out and it turns out that he was an escort, right? I don't think you'd consider an escort, a lover an escort is an escort. So Snopes might say something like, factually untrue. The man who attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband was not his lover. And then there'll be a long 3-page article, and at the bottom of the article it'll be like, but it did turn out he was an escort that Nancy Pelosi's husband hired. Now, none of this is true. This is kind of a theoretical situation, but you can kind of see what I mean by how they take the truth, and then if it's not literally exactly what happened, they'll kind of twist it to make you think the whole thing is false. A while back, we talked about how PayPal had added something into their terms of service about how they were going to fine people $2,500 for misinformation. I've been meaning to make a video about this. They actually quietly added that back into the policy. So if you go view PayPal's terms of acceptable use, you will see the thing about the $2,500 fine. I forget if it was Snopes or another publication that fact-checked this, but they basically said, no, it's untrue. Had a long article, and at the very bottom, basically admitted that it was true. But they were essentially taking PayPal's word for it. They said, PayPal said that this was done by mistake, so it's untrue. And then all the way at the bottom, they basically admitted that it was true. Let's see. We're looking at some tweets here. I think I'm just going to do kind of the normal kind of podcast style of video I've been doing lately, so you probably won't see the tweet. But it says, whoa, the White House deleted its tweet after Twitter placed a fact-check disclaimer on it. And the tweet said, seniors are getting the biggest increase in Social Security checks in 10 years through President Biden's leadership. And below that, we have something from Twitter that says, readers added context they thought people might want to know. Seniors will receive a large Social Security benefit increase due to the annual cost of living adjustment, which is based on the inflation rate. President Nixon in 1972 signed into law automatic benefit adjustments tied to the Consumer Price Index. The article goes on to say the Biden administration's latest attempt to rebrand terrible economic news as good news was so blatant that even CNN's fact checker Daniel Dale called them out. He went on to say, in a Tuesday tweet, the White House claimed that seniors are getting the biggest increase to Social Security checks in 10 years through President Biden's leadership, except that's only because it's tied to inflation, which has skyrocketed. That's quite a spin, Dale responded, adding the size of Social Security checks is linked by law to inflation. This year's increase is unusually big because the inflation rate is unusually high. And now Twitter has fact-checked the White House, something one normally wouldn't expect pre-Elon. Seniors will receive a large Social Security benefit increase due to the annual cost of living adjustment, which is based on the inflation rate. A lot of people are just like tweeting, holy shit, fact check. People can't believe that Twitter is fact checking the White House. Somebody tweets out, the community notes feature is awesome. Elon tweeted it. The community notes feature is awesome. Our goal is to make Twitter the most accurate source of information on Earth without regard to political affiliation. In other news, Joe Biden said that inflation is a problem because of the war in Iraq. Excuse me, the war in Ukraine, adding, I'm thinking about Iraq because that's where my son died. Joe Biden's son did not die in Iraq. Let's see. Biden, inflation is a worldwide problem right now because, so that's that tweet. Biden's son was never in Iraq and died on U.S. soil of brain cancer. And what did the regime media call Biden's lie about his son? Verbal fumbles. And we see a story here. Biden verbally fumbles twice during campaign trip in Florida. This is an article from the New York Times. The president confused the American war in Iraq with the Russian war in Ukraine and then misstated how his son Beau died. So that's the end of that article, but kind of the whole point of this story was I think this is why people don't want Elon Musk to own Twitter, is because Elon Musk, at least thus far, seems to be somebody who is not going to be controlled and who is not going to be a puppet of either party. And hopefully we'll see Elon Musk calling out both parties because the two-party system is kind of a mess. We're going to wrap up this video now. I got to get running. But if you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. And then I guess that's all. I'll catch you guys on the next one.